So you may look at this and say, why are we going to be using logarithms? There's no logarithm in this problem. Well, if we have a function where it's a variable raised to a constant, then we can take the derivative by using the general power rule. If we have a constant raised to a variable, then we have ways of taking derivatives of those things. But somewhere in there, there's a constant. Is the exponent or the base? What if the base is a variable and the exponent's a variable? Then neither of these methods are going to work. So we need to do something else. And something else is we use a rule from logarithms that says if you have log, and the base can be whatever you want, and then you've got something raised to an exponent, then you can take that exponent, bring it down in front, and multiply with the logarithm. It's basically because when you've got a power raised to a power, you multiply. So this is an exponent raised to an exponent, you multiply them. So we're going to use that, and for us, that's going to be the sine of x. So we're going to use that to bring the sine of x down in front. So we've got y equals a cosine of x raised to a sine of x. And now take log of both sides. I'm going to use the natural log only because it has less letters than log, so I can write it faster. And then we use this rule from logarithms, so the sine of x can be brought down in front and multiply with the logarithm. And now take the derivative of both sides. So the derivative of log, or natural log, is 1 over the argument. But then the chain rule says you need to take the derivative of this y, so that's y prime. On the other side, we need to use the product rule. So the derivative of sine of x is cosine of x, and then leave the natural log function alone. And then plus, leave the sine x function alone, and now take the derivative of this natural log of cosine. So the natural log is the outer function, take the derivative of that first, which means it's 1 divided by whatever's in the parentheses. So it's going to be 1 divided by whatever's in the parentheses. And now we're done with the logarithm. We took the derivative of that. Next, the chain rule says take the derivative of this cosine, which is negative sine of x. And then we just need to clean it up a little bit. So for one thing, we need to solve for y prime. So multiply both sides by y. This doesn't really have any cleanup. And then this will be negative sine squared for the numerator. And the cosine of x is the denominator. And these two don't really need to be combined, so you can just leave it like that. One thing that I do need to finish with is, this says a y is supposed to be right here, so go back to what y is equal and substitute it in, and then we're done. So cosine of x raised to the sine of x gets multiplied with this stuff in the parentheses. And that's going to be the first derivative. And if you really want to have some extra fun, go ahead and take the second derivative, or in other words, the derivative of all this. Oh, darn, I don't have enough paper.